Hi everybody, it's Brandon.
And Josh.
And before we start today's episode, we just want to give a little plug. Give us a like.
Or subscribe to this channel.
And follow us on Instagram for all of your daily drama and art needs.
Woohoo! Check back every week for more content from yours truly.
And hope you enjoy the episode.
Ciao.
Until we get another theme song, this'll have to do. These are your blues reviews. Hi everybody, it's your boys Brandon
And Josh, welcome back.
Welcome, and we've got another episode of Booze Reviews.
Cheers.
Cheers. What are you having today?
Well, I think for Bonnie and Clyde, we better have a little moonshine, shall we?
Yeah, that's what I've got.
Bonnie and Clyde would be slicking some moonshine off to the side, slicking and slinging, and
Just like Bonnie and Clyde, he can't answer a direct question. What are you having to drink today, sir? We'll get to all that. Wise guy. What are you drinking?
don't worry about it, wise guy.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not going to be afraid. I've got a little peach whiskey moonshine.
No peach.
Well, in my tea, because we are going down south.
And speaking of Tennessee,
Oh, and
if someone
Tennessee.
said Tennessee, we'll give a little shot of that too and see if that's any better.
So we've got all this southern liquid because, as you said, Bonnie and Clyde is on the menu today. And this is our review of the 2019 movie, The Highwaymen.
You may have heard there was a prison break.
Bonnie and Clyde were ruthless, tireless, and unstoppable. But so were the men who took them down.
Didn't see me.
All right, this is a different kind of movie we thought we would review. It seemed like it was a hot topic, and I really like in the America that we're living in now how different stories, different sides of a story can sort of be skewed to favor.
Yeah.
You know, you had the 1967 Warren Beatty, Faye Dunaway version of Bonnie and Clyde.
Hit movie.
That really glamorized the bandits, right? What do you call them? Bandidos, no,
Well, I mean, they're Bonnie and Clyde. They're like a genre all to themselves, where you have a pair of, man and woman lovers that are going on a crime spree. It's often Jay-Z and Beyonce, were the Bonnie and Clyde of '03. So, I mean...
Were they going on crime sprees too?
In the video, they did. But yeah, so they were highly glamorized because it was sort of a fantasy for some women of the time. Yeah.
Well, and that's why maybe in the 60s they made this movie that glamorized what they were doing as villains. Even though they were killers, right? They were shooting people down, hosing down people, but they became very popular in their lifetimes.
Yeah, you have to remember, this was during the Great Depression, the 30s. So money was hard. People didn't have jobs a lot, like we see kind of today in some places. But so people were thriving for these heroes that are saying, you know what? Screw all that. Screw the hardship. We're gonna go take it by crook, steal, lie, cheat, steal. Eddie Guerrero, shout out to you. But
It's a Robin Hood story. Steal from the rich and give to the poor.
Well, they weren't really given to the poor. They were keeping.
But the poor idolized them.
They did.
The poor loved them. They were in migrant camps. They were everywhere. And the interesting thing about this movie, The Highwaymen, starring
Kevin
Costner, I've loved for a long time.
My boy, Woody Harrelson.
Sling back to old Kingpin. And
all of it, and cheers.
there you go. And this one is actually following the lives of the highwaymen, the police officers that were hunting them down, and that ultimately put together a band of law enforcement and intel guys to kill them. So Bonnie and Clyde we only saw once or twice through the whole show.
Yeah,
Which
so
is interesting.
Yeah, so the movie actually starts off with we're in 1934, we're in the deep south, and we're shown a prison farm where like the old chain gang, and the next thing we know, there's sort of this creeping up, and all of a sudden in the distance we hear shot fire, and that's the signal, and there's a prison break.
Yep.
Yeah.
Complete with good old fashioned moida.
Right, Bonnie and Clyde, they're coming around. They're coming to get some of their guys out of the pen. They're ready to go on another spree. And
they got in that old T Ford and sped away. I like the tip of the hat to Ford in this movie where Bonnie sends a message to Ford and says, "Thank you, sir, for making such a good car that we can escape law enforcement on."
A manufacturer to Mr. Ford. Oh, right.
Oh, there you go.
Too many notes. But yeah, so they get him out, and then this is sent waves throughout the whole entire community. Everyone on both sides of the coins, they know Bonnie and Clyde. And so we get sort of the head of the Department of Texas Justice. I don't know.
Well, what happens
He goes to the governor.
Yes, so you have Kathy Bates playing Ma, governor of Texas.
Governor, this has to end.
What do you plan to do about Bonnie and Clyde?
We will capture them. Write that down and underline it twice.
Ma Ferguson. I did a little research. I'm going to do a little plug. I did my research a little bit. So she was the second female governor in the history of the United States after a place where we lived, Wyoming, which was Nellie Ross, who got the governorship only 2 weeks before Ma Ferguson. But anyway, her husband, Ma Ferguson's husband, was the governor in like 1915. He got impeached for fraud or whatever, but the people really liked him. And so she ran, letting everybody know, I'm gonna be you get me and you get my husband. If you liked him, vote for us. And so she wins. And so she has this political career, and she gets ousted, but she ends up getting another non-consecutive term herself. And so she was a feisty old bat, just like we see from Kathy Bates.
Oh yeah, you could have picked a better person to play a feisty old bat than Kathy Bates.
Yeah.
See, she's still in the thick of it.
Okay.
Yeah, so Kathy Bates' character comes on and decides that they're going to take the bull by the horns and that she wants to be the one that brings Bonnie and Clyde down, even though they're...
Gotta get 'em.
It's really hard because they're in all these different states. So state jurisdiction at the time kept highway police officers and things like that within their own jurisdiction.
Yeah.
And so that's why the FBI would be on it, but FBI was also sort of scheduled and slated to a region that they could stay in, and so it made it difficult even for FBI.
Yeah, there was a lot of disconnects between the law enforcement agencies, which they were just slipping right through.
Yeah, so she says, I want the old highwaymen, I want the
Rangers.
The Rangers that were disbanded.
They were a very elite law organization with a long history dating all the way back to 1823.
She did. Yep. She closed them down, and so that was part of the contention in the first place. She closes down the Rangers, the old, tough and true
Texas
grit.
Rangers.
Yeah, but now she's got to call one of the best of them back to come clean up the mess that they find themselves in, and that guy is Hammer.
Is Hammer? Is that
Hammer?
I don't know.
You're saying it wrong. It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
Costner.
Kevin Costner.
And I thought it was actually kind of interesting how
he was perfect.
He was great for it. He's obviously aging. I don't know how old Kevin Costner is now, but it shows this guy going through. He's got his life together. He's got his wife having house parties and whatever, and he's happy to not be in the field anymore.
Yeah.
And then they come to him, and he's going, "Oh, wait a minute, I haven't done this for a minute."
Yeah.
So he goes out to practice, and he's shooting clay pigeons, and he can't hit one of them anymore.
Yeah.
So that was sort of heartwarming to me to see, like, oh, this is probably a real life situation.
I thought that was a good choice in the movie. I don't know if it's adapted from a story, but whoever made that choice to show him not succeeding and like, I'm rusty, I gotta get back into it. So many times that we see this hero comes out of retirement, we have a montage a little bit, but he's ready to go.
Yeah.
No, this showed the real truth.
And to me, that shows grit. That shows authenticity in movie making.
Yeah.
The fact that it might not have been true for that particular character, but the fact that it appeals to that human element of getting out of practice as a musician. You know what that's like. And it's like, it's not riding a bike. You don't just grab your saxophone and start playing it again. It takes getting some chops up, and then
don't come for me. Go play a Beethoven over there.
See?
Okay, don't come for me.
I would have to practice.
Anyway,
I'm aged and rusty.
Anyway, we've gone down that road talking about who can do what. Let's get back in the movie. He's conflicted a little bit. He goes to practice to see if he's ready to do it, but his wife kind of doesn't want him. She's happy having him at the house, finally not worrying if he's going to get shot.
Yeah.
And so he just says to her, my duty calls, and she even says, "Are you gonna take my new car?" And he's like, "Well, yeah, I gotta take that too." And she's like, "Just bring it back." So I thought that was a nice moment to see her kind of saying, this is the man I married. He's got to do what he's got to do, and to be able to get Bonnie and Clyde, go get them, baby.
Exactly. Yeah.
So he sets off. He's got to just hit the highway.
He hits the highway, and off he goes. And in fact, he had a group of men, and they sort of go through this. One's dead, and one's, I don't know.
Yeah.
But he ends up going to see Woody
Skinny's
Harrelson,
gone.
who is sort of a drunk at this point. He's got a little girl, and I kind of get it that he's a... Oh, no, the wife is there. I was going to say...
No,
he's
that's his daughter. That's his
okay.
grandson. Yeah. So Woody Harrelson is ex-ranger, but he's unemployed. Again, it's a depression in rural communities. No matter what your background is, he can't find a job, and he's getting hard on himself. He's drinking, and so he sees Kevin Costner in town, but Kevin Costner doesn't come up to him and
well, he does. He drives out his road and he parks and he watches Woody Harrelson take his grandson, I guess it is, to the school bus, and then he backs away.
Yeah.
And, then he cut to this scene in town where Costner's buying all these guns.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Which I thought was great. It's
like, did the NRA pay for this?
Right.
You know, I wasn't mad at buying all the guns, but seeing it today, 2019, I'll be like, ooh, girl, he's crazy.
Well, and it's like, they never said anything about it, but did the governor, did Kathy Bates or someone else give him all this money to get armed?
Who was paying for that?
It seemed like a little overkill.
Sure.
He didn't have a team, and he's only got 2 hands, so I'm not sure why he needed 25 guns, but apparently he was assembling his team.
He was ready.
And when he comes out, speaking of assembling his team, there's old Woody sitting there saying,
Hey, you got room for one more?
Not even packed. Ah, Judas Priest, get in.
Why'd you come? Why didn't you come on all the way down? And so we get this conflict of people that were like, what happened? Like, why would you... We were partners. And so what do you think Kevin Costner was thinking about?
Well, he kind of says it to the effect, he said, I saw you there with a little boy. We went through this together. We barely made it out together. I didn't want to ask you to do that. Like, you know, I don't want to take you from that. I know I have to do it, but I don't want to. And what?
So you think it was a family thing?
Well, because he saw him with a little boy, and so he said, "I'm willing to put myself back in harm's way, but I'm not going to ask one of my best friends, my best guys, to come out of retirement and put himself."
See, I thought it was one layer deeper than that. I thought that he knew that he was a drunk, and he knew that he couldn't keep off the bottle, so he wasn't going to put him in harm's way because he has a grandson to take care of. I also think that's why he wouldn't let him drive the car ever. And once after it went on, there was some moments where they're in the bar and they're chasing down people, and there's the whole alcohol thing, and he looks at him and he's like, "You're not healed yet." And then by the very end, he finally gets to drive the car, and it's...
So he finally gets Woody Harrelson on the team, and they're getting the gang back together, and so they're doing the same old thing that they normally do. They're tracking down the leads, and I think one of the first places they think of that they keep coming this running line of criminals always go home. So first they think, okay, maybe we should check out the Dallas area. You know, that's where they're from. They just did a murder. They just did a crime. They're probably going to head back that way. And once they get there, they find like the FBI is already there.
FBI's on it, and there's a little conflict there for a minute. The FBI doesn't really think they should be on it. They're stepping on their toes, and they just move it right along, and they say, "Okay, well, we'll see who gets them," and away they go. And actually, the FBI doesn't come back again, do they? The rest of the movie.
They do. Well, because in this moment, and this is when we meet the young officer. Hinton, who is a childhood friend of Bonnie and Clyde. So they say, all right, if you guys are on the case, here's a man that can identify them on the spot. If he's with you, why don't you take him out? Ask him some questions, take him with you for a little bit and see, if you guys can find him. So they end up talking to him, and they find out that he was really close, like he had a crush on Bonnie. And, sort of, he realizes that the guy had him in his sights before, but he didn't fire. So he's wondering, like, how useful is this guy going to be if we've got him, but he's not going to be willing to pull the trigger on his childhood friends. So
yeah, well, he could be helpful in finding them, I guess, and find them, but he's not going to be the one that does it. It sounds like. What about, is Dallas the place where the little boy was with the bottle and the note?
Yeah. So I
thought that was kind of a nice detail that I really loved in this whole scene. The first whole scene where they're throwing a bottle over the fence and there's some communication, there's this little boy. I loved the period. I loved what the movie makers did to make this whole community in this chase scene throughout this like very Depression era rural community, and all the details were right, all the way down to the clothespins. I mean, it was just so beautiful.
Yeah, I mean that's a good production. That's what you're supposed to do. If you're going to tell us the story and get those details right. It's all in the details. They also thought that that they were a smart family, they were a smart gang, they were being helped obviously by people, and so they would be sending codes, and so the kid was like delivering a message with the bottle, and so they wanted to find him, and so they're also hearing messages over the wire, like they're going to be in Amarillo, they're going to be in Brownsville, and so they've got to figure out where Bonnie and Clyde are going to be, or try to figure out where they're going to be next.
Yeah, so the whole middle of the movie is essentially these two men following leads and trying to go around and collect data and get people on their team and chasing down Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah.
So they end up in about 5 different states.
And each place they kind of get one more clue, find one more person that can lead them somewhere. They meet Clyde's father at one point, and he says,
"This back in Dallas." He says, "Take him out."
You know, my son's never gonna. He's never gonna come alive. So if you gotta take the shot, take the shot.
Yeah. How do you think? What do you think about that? Speaking of themes, like that's got to be a heartbreaking moment in a way when the father is so conflicted because he seems like a good Christian man, and all of a sudden you have like this son, and he gives some background about the son and how like he was a good little boy, and now he's a criminal and he's the most sought after criminal in America.
I bet it would be tough. I don't know.
Something finally snapped in him, and he just said, "Okay, this is a toll on our family. Just go ahead and do it and get it done with." So I thought that was actually a kind of interesting layer to the cake, because then it's actually almost a blessing. He's getting the blessing of the father as a police officer to go, and so if it was to weigh on the highwayman's conscience, that's like, okay, well, even the father knows how deep this is. So they end up meeting this young man and buying him a drink, and in the hornet's nest. And apparently I loved this little scene with Woody Harrelson in the bathroom too.
You come to the wrong place, mister. Around here, Clyde is king.
But he didn't see me.
Clyde might be king, but I'm a Texas Ranger, you little shit.
Which is great. He goes in the bathroom, and these guys follow him in to kick his ass because he's obviously like,
getting a little too close.
Yeah, he's getting too close. It's a cop in the terrain of Bonnie and Clyde and these outlaws. And Woody Harrelson ends up pissing on their shoes and kicking their ass and sticking one's head in the toilet. And he comes out, and Kevin Costner goes, "What took you so long?" He goes, "What did he say? There was a man in the toilet."
What do you say? You gotta know your own punchlines. I can't help you.
I thought that was hysterical. The sad thing about it is the next day they find the young man murdered, dead.
It's whacked. You know, snitches get stitches.
That's right.
That's the way it is. And Bonnie and Clyde, they have eyes everywhere. They have followers. You know, even people of the regular community are lying, because there was that scene at the gas station where at one point they go to get gas, and just the gas attendant is trying to protect him and cover it up. So, you know, no surprise if this informant, he's done. So they're like, shit.
Well, and it was interesting. I watched a little bit on John May Hancock, the director, and the choices that they made. When they were filming this, it was very, very long day, and it was sort of the end of the day when this last scene was done, and they were all tired, and they had many takes for different things. And finally, he said, "You know what? We're going to finish this." Obviously, it's mind-boggling too what's going on. It takes not only an emotional toll but like physical toll, and he says, "We're just going to do one more take when you guys finish this and walk to the car." And off they went, and you see the two men walking to the car, and it was sort of a change on the spot that they just had the end of the scene with them talking from one camera in the back of the car facing them in silhouette version, which I thought was very powerful. And just come to think that it was just because we're tired and we've been working hard. I always like the behind the scenes stuff.
Beautiful choices. Yeah, so the cat and mouse is happening here and there. We're going town to town, and they're putting miles on this car. Like, honestly, that's what I was more impressed with. I was like, Texas is a big state, plus all them states all around it. I didn't think cars back then could run them kind of miles.
Right.
But they finally, the final sort of last hurrah comes where they meet the father of one of Bonnie and Clyde's associates. And he's got information that the guy that they broke out of jail in the beginning. So going on this logic that criminals always come home, they assume that he's got to come home at some point. So they meet his father, and he says, yeah, I've gotten word that my son is coming here, but here's the deal. My son's just a good kid, got mixed up in some stuff. If you can spare him, I'll make sure that you get Bonnie and Clyde. They'll come up my place. There's only one way in and one way out. Yeah. We can block them off. Just spare my son. We're going to get him.
Bienville Parish, Louisiana.
Down Louisiana.
There's a lot of filming in the bayou. Actually, the film was mostly filmed in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Strangely enough. And great idea for the men to continue pursuing this everybody comes home thing. Obviously, when Bonnie and Clyde got so infamous and they were so hot that they couldn't go back to Dallas and their homes, so they needed other hideouts. So they would go to homes of their gang members who they thought would give them a safe harbor. And the concept comes out then, you get 6 men that are part of this team that actually end up killing Bonnie and Clyde in real life and in this movie.
Yeah.
And the idea is that they're going to take this father, who should be on this road because it's his home, and break down his car, and he's going to take the tire off, and he's going to be fixing it.
Yeah.
So it ends up working, and they ambush Bonnie and Clyde.
And so our boy Hinton is there, the child.
Yeah, it's Clyde.
And so we get kind of a wrap up of everybody's theme, if you want to call it. Like, 'cause his theme was that conflict between friendship and doing what's right. And so they get up to the car, and Kevin Costner, Hammer, he pops out and he's like, "Drop your weapons." And Clyde looks like he's ready to do it. Bonnie, she's like, "Oh no." She picks up and they unload.
Oh my God.
Old boy Hinton, he fires round after round into his former friend.
How many rounds? Probably. That was like, we're going, wow, this is overkill.
Yeah,
it was. Why are they still shooting at this car and these people?
They wanted to make sure they were dead.
That was wild. And when you see the actual footage and the photographs and things like that, it's like,
a lot of people are familiar with Bonnie and Clyde, whether it's through the famous pictures or movies. They were the beginning of kind of criminal branding, if you will.
There is an old Model T Ford pumped full of lead, bullet holes everywhere.
Yeah, so the movie sort of wraps up, and I thought it was a weird but very artistic choice that we sort of have this glorified funeral march for Bonnie and Clyde, where they drag their car with their bodies in it all the way back to Texas, and you've got fans and people just mawing and trying to get in the car, get a picture, get a relic, something. People just, and it's not villainous. It's like these were fallen heroes.
Yeah. I think that's the first time in American history that we glorified so much any kind of outlaw or. I mean, think of the Wild West. There was those Wyatt Earp stories and things like that.
Yeah.
But Bonnie and Clyde were young. They were sweethearts. They were like in love, and they were supposed to be helping the poor and helping the marginalized and whatever. And they really were sort of celebrities in their own right.
Yeah, it was pure hysteria, and all the newspapers are coming around. They want to talk to the man that got Bonnie and Clyde, and it's just a lot coming at him. And Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson, they're just like, whew. That to me was the feeling. That was like the more of the theme, like that I felt, was that they stepped back in to do this job. They've done it, but like at what cost?
There's an old saying in Texas: when the bad guys are at their worst, Frank Hamer was at his best.
When Frank and Manny came on, they knew they had to do it the old school way. You live like they do. You sleep in the car, you drive 400 miles a day, and you keep moving.
Manny did it out of a sense of duty. He was not looking forward to this, but knew that it needed to be done.
He understood that's what it was going to take.
The thing they know is that there's no joy in this, because they know what the end of the road looks like. When Frank Hamer was put on the job 100 days later, Bonnie and Clyde were dead.
And what happened was, at the end, there's a journalist who wants an exclusive interview and is like, I'm going to give you $1,000 to sit down and have an interview with us, which was a lot of money at that time. And he just looks at them and shakes their head and walks away.
Don't even want it.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks a lot to those Rangers from that, especially from that time period, and I think a lot to servicemen and in law enforcement. It's a sense of duty, and they don't ever feel like they're supposed to profit off of it. It's not something they enjoy, having to take lives or anything like that. It's just doing what's right, and you just really feel that from Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson in this. And you're right. The whole movie.
Yeah, you're right. It takes so much out of them that I'm sure they were just at that point. Think about the emotional turmoil, the roller coaster you just went through. They want to get home to their wife and grandson and whatever. And it's like, we did our job, and now we're really going to retire.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you do any research? Did they do any work after that? These two men?
They hung it up.
They hung it up? That was the last hurrah.
They were done. Pretty much everyone was done, because Ma Ferguson, she got out of office right then after that, and she hung it up. Everyone just, it's like, okay, we got it. We're done.
Wow, how about that?
Well, but speaking of hanging it up, it's about time for us to hang it up. But before we do, make sure, if you'd like this review of Highwaymen, you can go check it out on Netflix right now, everywhere Netflix is streaming. And don't forget to leave a like, a comment, subscribe to the channel,
and check out our other reviews.
Recommend more booze.
Recommend more booze? Send us a package in the mail.
Why not?
We'll accept.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.